Hey folks, in today's video we will be finishing out the UI for the edit property screen. So to get started, navigate there in your code and also within your application. And from this point we are going to want to refactor some of our code. So everything here where we are mapping through each apartment, we are going to put this into its own component. So within our components, let's create a new folder. This will be called Edit Property Section, or sections. Within that, we'll create a new file called units input. And in this component, we'll have to add our imports for components that we used in our prior code. And let's add some local imports. So we're going to need to create a new type for temp apartment, add the amenities, description, and photo strings to our constants, and then create a new type for the initial values for edit property. So navigate back to edit property screen. And here we have these three different strings. Let's cut these and paste them in our constants. And for edit property initial values, let's create that type as well. And now let's create our component. And these are the props it's going to take. And these are all of the different values and functions that we used within that code block. So that's why we're passing them in. Next, we'll add in functions to add a unit and remove a unit. And now we can go back to the edit property screen and cut this code. And here we want to return a view. And within that is where we will paste that code. And anywhere you see values, let's get rid of that. Anywhere you see this .data.apartments, you can get rid of the two datas. And here we have to specify if property exists, then we can do this. Now all we need to do is add in our styles. And here we need to change these to our constants, so photos string. Now navigate back to the edit property screen and add in that component above the button. And we just need to import units input. And of course, that's not going to auto import. And now we can get rid of some of these imports. We also need to change this to the constants we created. And we can also get rid of the add unit and remove unit functions. Oh, and one thing I forgot is to go back to the units input and add the style here as units input style. So go back up. Now at this point, let's create a new component which will go underneath this units input. We'll call this component general property info. These will be our non-local imports, and these will be our local imports. So we'll have to go and create a pick image function and the description input component. So let's start with pick image. go into your utils and create a new file called pick image. And now search your project for the phrase pick image, and here in the units photo picker you'll see that we have this function. So we are just going to cut this function, and actually before we do that, let's take advantage of this while it is here. So we're going to have to pass this in to the function along with the field. And the images. Alright, now we can cut this and then paste it into pick image, and we'll just need to import everything as image picker from Expo image picker, which we are doing here. So we'll just cut this and paste it here. And now go back to unit photos picker and we'll just import that here. So pick image. And okay, we have to export this first in order to import it. So that's going to be in our utils. And now let's go create a new component called description input. And for this, we can navigate to the unit description. We'll cut our max characters here and then paste it over here. We will add these imports above that, and then we'll create our component and export it. Now we can go back to the unit description and cut this handle change text, paste it into our function or component here. Go back, and then here we can cut the input and text and return those here. Now where it says description, that's going to be value, and this style we can just get rid of. Here where we're saying autofocus, let's just specify that it will be that depending upon the passed in prop, and that will be the component. So now go back to unit description and let's add that in here. So we'll just paste that here, and then we'll need to import that here. Now navigate back to general property info, and this should work. Export your component, and these are the props it's going to take. Create your styles below, and in it just return a view for now. Now let's go into the edit property screen and add this underneath the units input. So it's called general property info, and we expect it to take in a description, which we need to create in our initial values. So that'll be here. Description will be an empty string to start off with. And here we'll say values.description. Images will be an empty array to start off with. And set field value is equal to set field value. Now go back to the general property info. To start off, we'll give this some text, which just says general property info, and give it these styles. Now if there are less than 10 images, we will display a button for the user to pick an image to add to their property. And these are the styles for that button. Underneath of that, if there are any images, we will display an image carousel, and we are going to make some changes to that component. So let's go over there. So to start off, let's get rid of onExpress. In its place, we'll add field, set images, and style. And let's add in the import for view style. And then we'll add in a new function for whenever the X is pressed, which will just filter the current images so that they don't include the image where the X was pressed. And let's go down below into our component. And instead of returning a fragment here, we'll return a view with the style equal to the passed in style. And go down below, change this to view. And then here, we'll just specify onExpress with the index, and we can just say X shown, question mark. Now with that refactor made, we'll have to go back to our edit property screen and go to the unit photos picker component and just make that change here. So we can add in the style for the image carousel and get rid of that view. We'll set the field equal to the passed in field. And set images equal to set images. And also for pick image, we will specify the new pick image function. And here we can get rid of the delete image function. And get rid of our flat list. Now go back to general property info, and underneath of the image carousel we'll have a description input and then a divider, and we'll give the divider these styles. Alright, now let's get started in creating the next section. We'll call this utilities and amenities. These will be our non-local imports, and these will be our local imports. So we're going to have to create these separate items. Let's start off with amenities list. So that'll be a new component. These will be our imports, and let's export our components. These are the props it's going to take. It will return a view, and we are going to memoize this component. So how this component works is that we'll pass in a list of amenities, and then we'll pass in the property amenities, and then we'll compare the two to see which line up. So for that, we'll create a map for all of the amenities, and then we'll initialize each to false, where the key is the amenity name, and then the value is obviously false. And then for each amenity in the total unit amenities array, we will set that value to true within the amenities map. Next, we'll create two new functions to add amenities to the array and delete amenities from the array. And within our view, we'll display a checkbox for each amenity. Now we'll create our styles, and we only have one style to create. So with the creation of this, we can actually go refactor some code within the edit property screen, or it's within the unit amenities component. So let's go there. We can first get rid of this checkbox or amenity checkbox. We can just export this as unit amenities and get rid of the memoization below. And here we can replace this with an amenities list for unit amenities. and of course we'll have to import amenities list. So we can do the same thing below for each of the lists, just changing out the amenities array. So this one is kitchen amenities, and we can delete this. And now with those added, we can delete these functions. And we can also get rid of this. And then we can clean up our styles. Now let's go back to utilities and amenities. And this should exist. So now let's go create these different constants. So to start off, let's just start with property utilities. For this, we'll just export an array with these items, create property amenities next. Similarly, it will just be an array with different items for amenities. Next, we'll create pet values. This will be an array of picker items, and create laundry values next. And this will be an array of picker items as well. I'll go back here, and here we'll export our component. It will take in these different props, and right now we'll just return a view. So let's go back to the edit property screen and add this in underneath the general property info component. So these first props are going to be initial values. So I'm just going to copy these here and then paste them into the initial values and then change some of the values here. So now let's go add these to the utilities and amenities component. Okay, so with those added, let's go back to the utilities and amenities component and start to build it out. Down at the bottom, let's start off with our styles. We'll just have 3 simple ones. At the top of the component, we'll have some text saying utilities included. We'll follow that with an amenities list for the property utilities. Then we'll get to the property amenities, and that will have select components for the pets and the laundry type. Then we'll have an input value for the parking fee. That will be followed by an amenities list for the property amenities, and then a divider. And here for the amenities list, I forgot to add the style to the outside view, so let's go do that. All right, now let's get started on creating the last component within this section. This will be called contact info. These will be our non-local imports, and these will be our local imports. Now let's create our component and export it, and it will take in these different props. And right now we'll just return this view so that we can go into the edit property screen and add this in. So this is called contact info. And these first few props are going to be initial values. So let's go add those to the initial values. And for these, we are going to need to get the user from our useAuth hook. So let's go import that. And let's add one last initial value called onMarket, and that will be false. Now let's go add these to the contact info component. here for this phone ref, we'll have to go and create a new ref. So navigate back up to the start of the component, and actually we've already got useRef imported. So now we just need to import rn phone input from React Native phone number input and create a ref for that called phone ref, and we'll initialize that to null. So with those props added, let's go to contact info and let's create our styles down below. So the first component will be a text component to signify this is contact information. Next, go to the sign up screen and we'll just copy over the inputs for the first name, last name, and email. And anywhere you see values, we'll just get rid of that. Now underneath our last value, we'll have a phone input, and that will be followed by a divider. Now navigate back to the edit property screen, and we just need to add another button, then this component, at least the UI, will be done. So for this first button, we'll give it a new style. It'll be called large margin top, and we'll change the text on this to say save. And then for our next button, we'll have to create a new style. So that will be giving it a border color of our primary color and margin vertical of 15. And that button will be used for publishing the listing. So with those both created, we can now go and test this out. Alright, so while I was testing it, I made the same mistake as in a prior video. So here for the view within units input, it was previously this. So I'm just going to change it to the index. So now we can test this out and it should work. So we'll add in another unit. Call this 67. This will be 68. Alright guys, so that is it. In the next video, we will be doing the error validation for these forms and then also submitting the updates to our backend so that it updates our database. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.